books that incorporate white lives into them substantially?
I have done.
In a substantial way?
You can't understand how powerfully racist that question is, can you? Because you could never ask a white author, when are you going to write about black people? Whether he did or not, or she did or not. Even the inquiry comes from a position of being in the center.
And being used to being in the center.
And being used to being in the center. And saying, you know, is it ever possible that you will enter the mainstream? It's inconceivable that where I already am is the mainstream.
They looked at just 12 southern states between 1877 to 1950. Turns out there were 3,959 victims of what they call racial terror lynchings.
My name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer. It was the 31st of August in 1962 that 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county courthouse in Indianola to try to register to become first-class citizens.
I don't know what most white people in this country feel, but I can only include what they feel from the state of their institutions. I don't know if white Christians hate Negroes or not, but I know that we have a Christian church which is white and a Christian church which is black. I know, as Malcolm X once put it, that the most segregated hour in American life is high noon on Sunday. That says a great deal for me about a Christian nation. It means that I can't afford to trust most white Christians and certainly cannot trust the Christian church. I don't know whether the labor unions and their bosses really hate me. That doesn't matter, but I know I'm not in their unions. I don't know if the real estate lobby is anything against black people, but I know the real estate lobbies keep me in the ghetto. I don't know if the Board of Education hates black people, but I know the textbooks I give my children to read and the schools that we have to go to. Now, this is the evidence. You want me to make an act of faith, risking myself, my wife, my woman, my sister, my children, on some idealism which you assure me exists in America, which I have never seen.
They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators.
Slavery was justified morally, biologically, theoretically, scientifically, everything else. And it seems to me that white America must see that no other ethnic group has been a slave on American soil. That is one thing that other immigrant groups haven't had to face. The other thing is that the color became a stigma. American society made the Negro's color a stigma.
In my opinion, the young generation of whites, blacks, browns, whatever else there is, you're living at a time of extremism, a time of revolution, a time when there's got to be a change. People in power have misused it, and now there has to be a change, and a better world has to be built, and the only way it's going to be built is with extreme methods. And I, for one, will join in with anyone, don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this earth.
What the gay rights ordinance in San Francisco, the main focus is to prevent the people who are already employed, who are gay, who, if they want to come out and break down the stereotypes, prevents them from being fired.
I am not calling the gentleman, Mr. Meadows, a racist for doing so. I'm saying that in itself, it is a racist act.
Is this the land of the free and the home of the brave? No! Is this a land with liberty and justice for all? No! Is this one nation, indivisible, under God? No! Either let us practice the democracy we are preaching, or shut up.
Well, there's no single simple meaning of the term revolutionary. A revolutionary is a man or a woman who is a lot of things, but basically the revolutionary wants to change the nature of society in a way to promote a world where the needs and interests of the people are responded to.
It doesn't take much to look on the local news every night and see how many black kids, black boys, black men are being killed with these stand your ground defenses that these people raise. Then they get off. I am a mother too, and I have a son And I care as much for my son as y'all care for y'all's. But my son doesn't walk the same path as yours does.
FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover today asserted that the Black Panthers represent the greatest internal threat to the nation.
Every incident that have been tipped off in this country in the last 2 years up north have been tipped off by uniformed police. Now, I'm not saying the police is right or wrong. I'm saying when you have these incidents that's tipped off with this one symbol, then we should look into it and see what it is. When 22 million people, be they black or white, start hollering police brutality, then it's time to start listening to 22 million people and going in. A lot of people say, well, it's not police brutality. Police brutality is not when a cop necessarily knocks me upside the head. It's when a cop calls me nigger when he's making the arrest. It's when he handles me wrongly in every process of processing the arrest. This is a form of police brutality.
America's not unique in its sins as a country. We're not unique in our evils. I think where we may be singular is our refusal to acknowledge them. And the legends and myths we tell about our inherent, goodness to hide and cover and conceal so that we can maintain a kind of willful ignorance that protects our innocence. I've had the privilege of growing up in a tradition that didn't believe in the myths and the legends because we had to bear the brunt of them.
Republicans in February blocked Senator Bernie Sanders' bill to provide $21 billion in medical and other benefits for veterans.
When our men and women come home from war, some wounded in body, some wounded in spirit, I don't want to hear people telling me it's too expensive to take care of those wounded veterans. I don't accept that. If you think it's too expensive to take care of veterans, don't send them to war.
Back in 1998, a black man, James Byrd Jr., accepted a ride from 3 white men. Instead of taking him home, they drove him down a remote Jasper County road, beat him, and dragged him for 3 miles behind their pickup truck.
I am, I think, quite disgusted, really, to be honest, that as Muslim legislators, we are constantly being asked to waste our time speaking to issues that other people are not asked to speak to, because the assumption exists is that we somehow support and are for, right? There is an assumption. So I want to make sure that the next time someone is in an audience and is looking at me and Rashida and Abdul and Sam, that they ask us the proper questions that they will probably ask any member of Congress.
I think the only thing that's really changed is the black woman.
If I love you, I can't lie to you.
Of course you can lie to me, and you will. If you love me and you're going off with Maddie someplace, you're lying to me. Because what the hell do I care about the truth? I care if you're there. What Billie Holiday say, hush now, don't explain.
All right, I accept that.
Of course you'll lie to me, because I don't even want to care. What does the truth matter? And why are you going to be truthful with me when you lie to everybody else? You lied when you smiled at that cracker down the job, right? Lie to me, smile. Treat me the same way you would treat him.
I can't treat you the way I
must.
treat him.
You must. Because I've caught the frowns and the anger. He's happy with you. Of course he doesn't know you're unhappy. You grin at him all day long. You come home and I catch hell. Because I love you, I get least of you. I get the very minimum. And I'm saying, fake it with me. Is that too much of the black woman to ask of the black man? For 10 years, so that we can get a child on his feet that says, yeah, father smiled at mother. He talked to me about school today.
How many bales of cotton have you picked? How many beatings have you taken? He couldn't say nothing.
Earlier today, we heard the beginning of the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. We the people. It's a very eloquent beginning. But when that document was completed on the 17th of September in 1787, I was not included in that we the people. I felt somehow for many years that George Washington and Alexander Hamilton just left me out by mistake. But through the process of amendment, interpretation, and court decision, I have finally been included in we the people.
A boy last week, he was 16 in San Francisco, told me on television. Thank God we got him to talk. Maybe somebody will start to listen. He said, I got no country, I've got no flag. Now, he's only 16 years old. And I couldn't say you do. I don't have any evidence to prove that he does. They were tearing down his house. We're talking about human beings. There's not such a thing as a monolithic wall or, some abstraction called the Negro problem. These Negro boys and girls who at 16 and 17 don't believe the country means anything that it says, don't feel they have any place here on the basis of the performance of the entire country.
But now, Jim...
No, am I exaggerating?
No, I certainly could not say that you're exaggerating.
My name is Legacy Garner, the daughter of Drew Miller and my dad, Eric Garner. No justice, no peace.
You don't think you will ever change and write books that incorporate white lives into them substantially?
I have done.
In a substantial way?
You can't understand how powerfully racist that question is, can you? Because you could never ask a white author, when are you going to write about black people? Whether he did or not, or she did or not. Even the inquiry comes from a position of being in the center.
And being used to being in the center.
And being used to being in the center. And saying, is it ever possible that you will enter the mainstream? It's inconceivable that where I already am is the mainstream.
They looked at just 12 southern states between 1877 to 1950. Turns out there were 3,959 victims of what they call racial terror lynchings.
My name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer. It was the 31st of August in 1962 that 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county courthouse in Indianola to try to register to become first-class citizens.
I don't know what most white people in this country feel, but I can only include what they feel from the state of their institutions. I don't know if white Christians hate Negroes or not, but I know that we have a Christian church which is white and a Christian church which is black. I know, as Malcolm X once put it, that the most segregated hour in American life is high noon on Sunday. That says a great deal for me about a Christian nation. It means that I can't afford to trust most white Christians and certainly cannot trust the Christian church. I don't know whether the labor unions and their bosses really hate me. That doesn't matter, but I know I'm not in their unions. I don't know if the real estate lobby is anything against black people, but I know the real estate lobbies keep me in the ghetto. I don't know if the Board of Education hates black people, but I know the textbooks that give my children to read and the schools that we have to go to. Now, this is the evidence. You want me to make an act of faith, risking myself, my wife, my woman, my sister, my children, on some idealism which you assure me exists in America, which I have never seen.
They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators.
Slavery was justified morally, biologically, theoretically, scientifically, everything else. And it seems to me that white America must see that no other ethnic group has been a slave on American soil. That is one thing that other immigrant groups haven't had to face. The other thing is that the color became a stigma. American society made the Negro's color a stigma.
In my opinion, the young generation of whites, blacks, browns, whatever else there is, you're living at a time of extremism, a time of revolution, a time when there's got to be a change. People in power have misused it, and now there has to be a change, and a better world has to be built, and the only way it's going to be built is with extreme methods. And I, for one, will join in with anyone, don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this earth.
What the gay rights ordinance in San Francisco, the main focus is to prevent the people who are already employed, who are gay, who, if they want to come out and break down the stereotypes, prevents them from being fired.
I am not calling the gentleman, Mr. Meadows, a racist for doing so. I'm saying that in itself, it is a racist act.
Is this the land of the free and the home of the brave? Oh! Is this a land with liberty and justice for all? Oh! one nation, indivisible, under God.
Mic check, mic check. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Think you can? My shoulder hurting, that's why I got this this chair to elevate my shoulder. As everyone that knows me knows that a couple years ago, maybe about a year now, that I woke up one morning and I had a disc pushing up against a nerve, and it's a lot better now, but every now and again, if I set on the set up, like work too much, then it'll start messing up. So, how are you guys doing? I'm not in the best mood. It's been real iffy over here with this coronavirus, and not even the coronavirus is it, but I don't know. You go outside. This is New York, right? So New York is like different from LA. It's like people outside all the time. It's barely any people outside, which is a good thing. I'm not saying that. I think absolutely everyone should be doing this. But shit is low-key lonely. To keep it 100, it's lonely. You get lonely, you know what I'm saying? So I've been like in the depressed mode, as you can see. You know, I normally shave and everything. I ain't do that. That's why I got my hat on, because y'all ain't about to see my age. But, yeah, it's been different out here for the past couple of weeks. I just been hibernating in the house. I haven't went out, really, unless I need to go to the store to, like, get some water or something like that. I haven't been out. A lot of people ain't out. And, I mean, you'll go outside and you'll see some people out, but if you are used to how many people are normally on the streets, it's really nobody out. And people that are out, they have masks, which I thought was a great thing, because a couple of days ago, I saw some people out and they didn't have masks. I was just out right now to get some water. Everyone has a mask on. It's not that many people out, but the people that are out, they have a mask on. And when you walk by them, they're talking about, I heard one guy talking about, hey man, you know, this is serious. I think he mentioned the, I forgot what flu did they have in 1917, 1918? Was it the Spanish flu? Am I tripping? But you get people are talking about it, which is good, because I've been real frustrated these past couple of days, watching the news every day, Twitter, listening to our president, and just him being such a liar and an idiot, and just feeling kind of helpless, feeling kind of like really, really like, man, he got that bully pulpit. And you have your factions of people that watch Fox News. You have your factions of people that watch MSNBC. You have your factions of people that watch CNN. So they're going to spin the story whichever way they want to. But when he comes on those press conferences, the Corona Task Force, when they have those things every day, everyone is watching him, period. And just how he lies and how he cuts people off and don't allow them to talk. And you really get an understanding like how someone, like what power is. Like power is power, like for real. Because he controls the narrative. He cuts, I forgot to put this on. He cuts any journalist that disagrees with him, that questions him about something, in addition to him getting offended, you know, he'll cut people off. He won't even let them finish the question, and they'll have a whole question and don't even get it out because he got offended, and he'll interrupt it and just keep talking, and then so he controls the entire narrative, and when you marry that control and that frustration with the fact that with the stuff that you see on Twitter and what people like be believing that you know ain't true, and you like, man, and there's no way you can counter it because they're not watching stuff that you know they don't agree with. You know, the majority, like even algorithms in itself don't work like that. Like if you're on Twitter, you're on YouTube, and you're looking for stuff, you're searching for things to watch, the suggestions that Instagram, Twitter, and IG have are going to be based on what you've been watching, not based on maybe they need some diversity in the things that they're watching. Maybe they need some contrast. No, they look at everything that you're researching, and then their algorithm will suggest videos based on the things that's already that you're already interested in. And so it's easy for someone to believe like either it's fake news or either New York is lying, that Cuomo's lying, like nurses are lying, they do have masks. People aren't really dying like they said. You got people on Twitter going to like some hospitals and going outside of the hospitals and just taking videos of the outsides of a hospital saying, "Oh, this doesn't look crazy. They're lying. See, this is fake news. Look, everything looks fine." But no one is going inside. Obviously, they can't be inside. But this is the thing that's real, real dangerous. But you can't speak to those people. They want to lie anyway. That's all. They ain't seeking the truth. They just trying to prove their point. You know what I'm saying? It's a difference between like, I'm going to go in here and see what's cracking, really cracking, versus I'm going to go in here and no matter what's cracking, I'm going to manipulate it so it can mirror, whatever I'm spewing. Before I get into everything now, y'all go ahead and follow me. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. I'm gonna make sure that I push it to go live the rest of this week because I've been it's crazy out here, man. I mean, it's crazy, my feeling, how I feel as far as like everything that's been going on. The fact that you don't have like the camaraderie. You can't be around people. Like I was looking for a job and I was getting hella interviews, and now it all cut off because the city's on lockdown until April 30th. Like all that is stressful, man. All that is stressful. So I've been looking for a job for a couple months now, and I was getting a lot of responses and interviews and everything, and all of a sudden it all shut down because of this. I mean, it's no one's fault. But it still puts you, in a certain state of mind. You feel depressed. You're like, what should I be doing? How can I? You try to see how you can make it work for your benefit, and how you can, this time that you kind of just idle, sitting up. Try to see how you can make it benefit you. So I've been doing some things, but even outside of that, it's still, you feel bad. I think today, California I don't know if the governor there is going bi-weekly. I mean, going each week. They're going to, because right now they only got 7 days. New York has 30 days. So LA today just started a 7-day, like everyone has to be in the house. So I'm not sure if they reevaluate every week, and more than likely, if it gets worse in LA, which LA is doing good because I think, they got a jump on it. They got a good jump on it before it actually hit them. They start prepared before that, and so, which really made a difference. I mean, you look at New York and you look at LA. That's all you got to do is look at the numbers. The numbers tell the story, period. It's nothing but that preparation. They was able to get in early and they did it, and it's not as bad right now. Like LA would be a little different, and I think they're about 800. Let me see. Check it out right quick. First off, let me see where we at. I'm about to. Okay. Right quick. I need to share this. Share this video right quick. And who's trending? Oh, okay, that part. I need to share him. I don't know, what have you guys been doing since this pandemic's been going on? I've Tommie Tyhefe. What's up? What have you guys been doing since the pandemic been going on? I'm sorry, I'm retweeting this so it can be on my other page. Retweet. I don't know if you guys know, you probably do know Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of the UK. He's in intensive care. It kind of had me a little confused because they were saying that he's in intensive care, but anytime you go in intensive care, it means you have a ventilator. And they were kind of talking as if they were talking around it, but almost as if he didn't have a ventilator, like it hasn't gotten there yet. But I think it has, because intensive care, that's what it is. That means that's when they put you in a coma, and you get the ventilator so they can help you breathe. So Alyssa Milano, Bernie Bros attacking Dr. Biden for having a PhD in education is exactly what I'd expect. Y'all need to realize you're part. Y'all need to realize that you're part of the problem. Bernie Sanders needs to separate himself from your support. You do more harm to him, his policies, and the country than good. Alyssa Milano, she can just really be quiet right now. You guys saw the title, so I'm gonna talk about her too. But I'm just looking. She just tweeted this a couple hours ago. She's so phony and so fake, you know. And people should have known that. And I think that's been my frustration too. Like, just kind of being inundated with the news and the things that's been going on. And when you're not preoccupied, you're not distracted, it's not a lot of things that's kind of distracting your mind where you can't focus on something or even like contemplate a thing. You really start to see a whole lot of stuff that maybe you've seen before. Because I've seen all this before. I guess now it's just like, what do we do with it? That's where I'm at. I'm at a position like, what do we do now? Because where we are, like, the reality is in our face. And that's like on the Republican side and the Democratic side. The reality is in our face. The Democratic Party don't give a S about us. And the Republican Party obviously don't give a S about us. But to keep it 100, they don't give a S about the Republicans either. You know what I mean? I mean, Trump became a Republican Party because he was something different. He was going to throw the bomb. He was going to wreck it. He was going to destroy the Republican Party. You know, that's what he did because people's frustration. But you look at him now, for the people that want to see, the people that it's not just about their side. It's not just about winning our side. You know, you have you have morals, you have standards, you have integrity. It stands for more than just Democrats winning or Republicans winning. Has to be frustrated with him. There's no way a person can be patriotic and see what's going on in New York and in the rest of the country and how Trump is handling this pandemic and not becoming a leader, not stepping up to the plate and say, I'm okay with this. If you're doing that, I mean, there's people that are like that support Bernie are the same way. This happens everywhere, where you got some people that no matter what happens, whoever they're supporting is right. They're riding or dying regardless. You know what I'm saying? As if that was like their mate or something like that. You know, but I don't think that way. I'm more of, if you right is right and wrong is wrong, and I'm calling it out. I don't owe nobody nothing. You know, the intention is for them to appeal to me. So if you right, not to say that I'm not biased, and a lot of, especially when we talk about Bernie Sanders and things like that, like it's not subjective. It is subjective. I'll be lying to say that because I like him, but right is right and wrong is wrong. I still can be unclouded and be like, nah, I didn't feel that. Like when Bernie Sanders did the commercial, when he did the little promo video, almost kind of insinuating that him and Barack Obama's cool. I was like, that's the same thing. I said, that's the same thing that Bloomberg did. What part of the game is that? That bothered me. And I talked about it. I wasn't with that. But a lot of people didn't. Oh well, Bloomberg did it, so it's okay. I'm not. That's not who I am at all. But I'm like, what I'm starting to see right now is we gotta. I guess the only thing I can mirror it to, and this is like a bad like comparison. It's a parallel. It's not a comparison. But how the Tea Party mobilized itself and got influence and got in Congress and things like that. Like, and what's been going on in my mind is way bigger than just like progressives, you know, or it's way bigger than looking at progressives only being a wing of the Democratic Party. Let's say that. It's way bigger than that. And it, like, what's going on in my mind is something that may take a while, but I think it's very possible to mobilize like that, to take over. Like when Trump tried to get rid of Obamacare initially when he first got there, and the Tea Party was like, they didn't allow that to ride because a lot of their constituents was really, even though they didn't like Barack Obama, what they were offering after they got rid of the ACA wasn't sufficient enough for their constituents, so they voted against it. And they had that power to do that. And so when I compare it, that's all I'm talking about. It's having influence, because that's what matters is power. You know what I'm saying? You know, I think you got to play their game. When you can't go into an arena and trying to take over playing, you know, your own game, or I'm not like that, or, you know, you got to play their game. You got to be as, I'm not saying that you got to compromise your standards at all, but you got to be as ruthless as they are, in the sense of right is right, wrong is wrong. Tell the truth. You know what I'm saying? The truth is the truth by itself. It don't need you outside of just exposing it. You know what I'm saying? I feel like, you know, Bernie never even brought up what I'm going to talk about right now with Joe Biden, with the being accused of sexual assault from a ex-staffer. No one's brought that up to this day in mainstream media. That could have been in the debate. They had one debate together, because if it was him, it would have been brought up, especially after going into South Carolina, after Nevada, after he won, and everyone was like, "Man, we need to get after him." I guarantee, if that was lingering, and no one had brought that up, it would have been brought up times 10 then, period, without a second thought. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that they coalesce all those things that they did, you're not playing by their rules. You want to call everybody your friend. Like, I feel like if they're not for the people, then they can be your friend. You can still be my friend, but I'm going to tell the truth. Now, if you choose not to be my friend because I'm exposing it, I'm exposing who you are, what you've been since you've had your public career. If you get mad that I'm only exposing and telling people who you are based on what you've said yourself, then hey, you got to make that decision not to be my friend no more. But I feel like, you know, Bernie, anytime he says something about Joe Biden's my friend. I like Joe Biden. We work together a lot. Come on, man, y'all can be friends after this, because he don't care about things. I mean, look at us right now. Right now, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and he said, if a bill for Medicare for all come across his desk, if he was president, he'll veto it. He just said that in the midst of what we're going through right now. So what that lets you know about who he is? You know what I feel like? I feel like black people, white people, Latinos, and everybody else. For real, everybody else. But Native Americans. But I think because how it is, you know, like it's black and white, like that thing is that. Everything else stems from the idea of black and white. Like I feel like for us to like have a new party to push forward, this may sound a little crazy just coming off because I've been thinking about it a couple of days and I may not articulate myself correctly for you to feel it, but that's fine. Because what I'm saying is honest and is real. And if you take it the wrong way, you take it the wrong way. There's nothing I can do about it. I can clarify it if you need clarification. But I think that, what was it? Hold on. I'm just about to do some history for y'all right quick. Beacon's Revolt. Beacon's Rebellion. History.com. So look, I want y'all to y'all ever get a chance, I want y'all to look at this. This is why America's first colonial rebels burned Jamestown to the ground. So this was Beacon's Rebellion, right? When the graft for Native American land was denied. Right, so this rebellion, y'all read it for yourself, and I think it's something because it's kind of, my idea is kind of wrapped around this a little bit. So Beacon's Rebellion is something that happened. So initially, you know, when the first slaves were around, you know, they like the institution of slavery, how what we know, how we see it now when you think about slavery in America, like that institution didn't start until like, I think it was like 16 something. 16, when they started doing the black codes, like 16, maybe 1620, 1625 or something like that. But before then, the indentured servants and the black slaves would only have to do a certain amount of time and then they would be pushed inland. You know, and then when they would be pushed inland, they would have to get the land inland, and a lot of times they would have conflicts with the natives and stuff like that. Died. So anyway, after years of that, they started to rebel, and so they had this, you know, Beacon gathered up because they were all living together. So you had the poor whites and the poor blacks living together. They was having kids. They was doing all that, and then they ended up rebelling against the colonizers, and it ended up winning the first battle. And then what happened is I think Beacon ended up dying, and I think then they lost the next battle. Then after that, what they started doing is changing the laws. That's when they started the black code, and they started to. That's when what we think of the idea of whiteness that was separate. Like black people wasn't able to. They started changing laws where black people couldn't vote. If a slave. If you were a black slave, then your children would be born into slavery. If you were an indentured servant, then they wouldn't, and you can be free. So they started to do that to divide the white indentured servant from the black slave. Was after that, and so I say that to say that that's what I'm talking about. Like, how do we get there, right? To the point where, and I'm not talking about compromising when I'm talking about this. This is. What I'm proposing is going to take like some yelling, arguing, screaming, maybe fighting, who knows. But the idea is to, like, what I want to, so, how do I say this? So if we can get to that point where we have the same agenda, you know what I mean? Like, how do I get to the point where a white, let's say a white Republican, right? Conservative that hate the way the party is on their side and want to do something different, hate it, you know. Maybe he's a millennial, maybe he's a Gen X, maybe he's a Latinx, maybe they're a Latinx. And they don't like how it's going on. They don't like this right now. They feel like on top of, you know, the BS, on top of what's going on, I mean, you look at, they're paying more. They're doing just what they did in 2008 with the stimulus package. They're giving way more money to corporations than to the people. And the people are sitting here not without a job, worrying how they're going to pay their rent. All this stuff going on. But they're making sure that these big industries, instead of these small businesses flourish, they're making sure these big ones flourish. But then Trump is lying and say, oh, everyone's getting their money, and they're not. It's all on every other channel, right? So if you got Republicans that's tired of that, younger Republicans or whatever, and then you got progressives that's tired of it, right? And so how do we get on the same page, right? How do we get on the same page and start this party where we can gut the entire Congress? Like having Congress be the first thing we gut. Having Congress be the first thing that we attack, that we get. And then get the White House. You know what I mean? But this means we have to be on the... I'm not talking about just a party. I'm not talking about like a 10-year wave, you know what I'm saying? A 15-year wave. I'm talking about restructuring our entire country, our entire disposition, our entire perspective of politics and how we approach them. You know what I mean? And how do we get there? How can we have... The only way I feel like we can have this type of revolution, and I'm speaking revolution, is to fight it out. And what I mean by that is, so I want to have white Republicans on my side, on our side, like progressive side. How do we do that? And how do we, then have them, not, and when I say coexist, I don't mean like we're going to tolerate each other to get to a thing. I'm talking about you caring as much about what matters to me as you do about what matters to you, and vice versa with myself, right? And I think that's going to take like a lot of discussions, and I think one of them is race. We got to get to a point where the way that I feel about my position in this country as a black man has to matter to that white Republican. It has to. So that's what I'm talking about, getting there. So then when we go fight, and the things that matter to him has to matter to me. Not like, okay, I'll get that. No, like it shouldn't matter to me. I should be willing to die for that as much as I'm willing to die for the things that I want to die for. You know what I'm saying? And it's all about being honest. You know what I'm saying? Because the things that I feel like the things that black people are mad about, if you be honest, you can't do nothing but agree. The entire history of this world, it is what it is, Anytime someone doesn't feel acknowledged, they're going to have a certain disposition toward their oppressors, period, point blank. And that's where we are right now. But that kind of came out of my frustration because I looked at how they played the game with Bernie and how they all coalesced and knocked Bernie out, which they were supposed to do. That's their job. They didn't like Bernie. I mean, that's the real. They can say what they want to say, but they didn't like Bernie. They didn't care about Bernie. They don't care about our politics. They don't care about what matters to us. So they said, okay, we're gonna show you who we are. So they pushed their line. They showed their strength. That's what they should do, right? That's what you do. I mean, if you care, like what matters to you is what I'm saying. That's honest to them. They ain't never cared about progressive needs or anything like that. So that's honest to them. So they should do what we're going to bogart and we're going to take over. And that's why I say they're going to let them lay in the bed that they make. Democrats have to lay in the bed that they make. Meaning, you bullied Biden in, so you get him elected. I'm not voting for Biden. I'm not voting for Trump either. but I'm definitely not voting for Biden. I mean, me voting for Trump, me not voting for Trump goes without saying. But I am not voting for Biden. And my prayer is that other progressives don't vote for Biden. And that the DNC loses. As much as I hate that. As much as and I really do. I mean, my aunt was talking about it like, she even said, like, we got to get this fool out of here. Like, she said, I would even vote for Bernie. I was shocked when she said that. I'm like, oh, wow. And I feel that way, too. But at the same time, I feel as strongly about the DNC acting like they just don't care, want to bully and want to act like they're the party for the people, and they're not. I'm tired of them lying and getting away with it, and that's what they've been doing. You know what I'm saying? The things I was going to talk about, like Me Too movement, all that stuff, everything. It's just all a lie. It's just about their own selfish needs, what they want to do politically. It's all about a political career. It's not honest. They don't care about the people. They're hurt people. None of that. They don't care about none of that. And, if they lose a second time, maybe they'll see how much influence the progressive wing has. Because I don't mind you blaming it on progressives if you lose again. Please blame it on us. I would take responsibility for it, yes. There's nothing about our platform, the things that we care about. Like I said, we're in a pandemic right now. People don't want to have to pay money for to get tested or to get treatment. A lot of people have to, you think, oh, okay, I get tested, right? And then they pay for that. Then my treatment, I'm in the hospital 2 weeks or something like that on a ventilator. You know how much that shit costs? You're not paying for that, but I mean that's in the plan now. But at first it wasn't. They was just saying, oh, the testing you won't have to pay for. So now people see how much this stuff is costing, and even in the middle of this, you got Joe Biden saying, if a Medicare for all came across my desk, I'll veto it. That's what he said. Now, I can see based on what we're going through right now, this is something that we're going to have to figure out. I mean, in addition to even Yang, I was like, that $1,000 is cool, but I never even really appreciated Yang's platform and about that security blanket, man, up until what we're going through right now. Because, okay, we're all going through this thing, right? And we empathize with it because we selfish MFers, right? We're selfish. Everybody, humans are selfish for the most part. Not all of us, but a majority of us, myself included. We can, like right now, we understand that we all want our government to make sure that whatever hospital costs we have don't bankrupt us. We want to make sure that we can pay for it. We want to make sure that we can, if something is going on with us, that we have access to it, and we get the things that we need to live, to be able to take care of our family. And now that the majority of us are being laid off and don't have a job and have to file for unemployment, we want our government to be like, give us some type of security blanket. Here you go. This is what's going on. You don't have to pay rent for 3 months in New York. Do these things. We're expecting them to do that for us because we fell on a hard time, out of our control. And we can all empathize with this thing because we're all going through it. I'm not on the news looking at Boise, Idaho, and just the people in that city lost their job and some pandemic that's just concentrated right there. I'm not looking at Boulder, Colorado at a shooting and saying that, it's over there. And it's like, no, it's all of us are involved. And so since we're all involved, we all want the help. And the reason that I said we're selfish is because as much as we and everyone fought against what Bernie wanted and even what Yang wanted, because right now we're just passing shit. So obviously that lets you know right there that we got the money. Hold on. So right now we just pass the stuff. So that lets you know if we want it, we have it. The only time they argue about things is is if it's going to take money from somewhere else. Like, you know, if you get Medicare for all, guess what? The medical industrial complex, they're going to lose a lot of money, right? The pharmaceutical industry is going to lose a lot of money. So they fight against that because they have the majority of politicians in their pocket. But if we need something, there's not a real big fuss, and they make it happen. They got 2.5 trillion all the way to 6 trillion. The first phase, or not the first phase, 1 through 3. The fourth phase, they're already talking about doing another a bill for that. So what I'm saying is we can understand that right now because we're all going through it. But do we realize that there are people that go through what we're going through collectively as a country? There's people that go through that every day and no one gives a fuck. People lose their job every day and don't have a security blanket and have to be homeless, can't pay their rent and have to be homeless. Can't get sick and get in bankruptcy because they found out that they got cancer or whatever, and they're getting charged however many thousands of dollars, you know, just to get checked up to find out what they have. Every doctor's visit. That happens to someone in this country every day. What's happening to us right now collectively that we empathize towards, that we understand that we're fighting, that we're in this together because we're all going through it together, happens to people every day and no one's there for them. There's no one that's either in Congress or anywhere fighting for them saying, look, just because it's not happening to me doesn't mean it's not happening. Just because I haven't had a mass shooting in my community doesn't mean I shouldn't fight for Colorado because they just had a mass shooting and try to get some common sense gun laws. Why do I have to wait till my son's or my daughter's school gets shot up before I start to activate myself and say, you know what, we do need better gun laws in this country? Why does it have to happen to me first before I stand up and do something? This is what I'm talking about. That's why I say we're selfish, because right now we're very understanding. You know how many people I was arguing with when we talked about Medicare for all, or we can afford it? I'm sure how many people, when they talked about a basic, universal basic income, how we can't afford it. Now we're understanding. Now we can afford it. Now we just get it. No one's saying how we going to do it. They just want it because they're in that bind. People go through this every day, and why can't we have empathy for them? We should have that. No one thought that this was going to happen, this pandemic. How many people how many people do you think woke up March, let's say 9th? I think the 9th probably is when it started to crack a little bit. And thought, I'm going to be dead by the end of this month. None of them. All of a sudden, we got over 10,000 now dead within a month. And you got over 300,000. I don't know what the percentage of the ones infected that are like critically infected. But this is something that just happened. And it just so happened to everybody. So now that empathy is there because that person over there, it's happening to them too. And they get it. But this is what I'm talking about, man. Like, this stuff happens to people every day. You know, homelessness went up 16% in LA last year. And then they had a bill in November to have rent control, and it didn't pass in LA. You know why? Because people didn't give a fuck, because it didn't happen to them. They didn't give a fuck about... You know how much 16% is in the entire LA County? And they didn't care. They just wanted to get paid. And the majority of them was probably people that own places and just wanted to get paid. They didn't have any empathy towards these people. That you got people that's working, having a job, being homeless because the rent is so high. You know what I'm saying? Something happened and they ended up even losing their job and then losing their home. No cushion. All of a sudden they have to... And what do you think that type of stress and that stuff drive people to doing drugs? It drive people to doing a lot of crazy stuff. Because if you don't feel that there's a way, you want an escape. And you can't And if drugs is not your thing, maybe it's robbing somebody. You know, because everybody gets to a line where they're going to survive, whatever that thing may be. I just wish we had more empathy. Only thing we're thinking about is us. We don't even understand. I want to be able to choose my own medical provider. Don't you know if it's Medicare for all, those same people that are doctors are still going to be doctors? And if it's Medicare for all, single payer, guess what that means? That doctor's still going to be available for you to take. It's not going to change. It's only going to be one system. So they will be within that system. That's not what you're worried about. You're worried about being comfortable. Right? You're not comfortable now. And you want some help. Like we all do. So why don't we forward that same understanding to like people that don't live the life you live? You know what I'm saying? That don't have the small privileges or whatever. Or just that bumped into an issue and had some circumstances that made it difficult in the moment. Why not make sure that the greatest country, that we claim to be the greatest country in the world, look out for their citizens? Because they have all these, this is why large businesses and big companies, they can take risks. Wall Street can take risks, take these big gambles and do, you know why? Because they know that the government is going to always take care of them, and they always do. No matter what, government always takes care of these companies when something like that happens. And if it's not the government, there's always another company say, you know what, I'll buy you. So there's always a security blanket for them. But when it comes to the people, capitalism, do it on your own. This is who we are. Y'all get fooled by that shit. But all these large companies that get these tax breaks, incentives, that's the government right there, taking care of these people. But then they try to make you feel bad and tell you to pick yourself by your bootstraps when they don't even give you no boots to strap up. You know what I'm saying? You can't even do what you want to do because you're scared to gamble. Because you don't know who's going to have your back if it don't work out. These huge companies, they can gamble because they have insurance. I think what we need to do as progressives, those Republicans any Republican, we got to start off like, you have to start off, everybody has to be equal. If your Bible allows someone to feel to be inferior towards you or less than, or their sin is greater than yours, then we're going to have to talk through that, or I can't fuck with you. Because if God can say a sin is a sin, but you can say, oh no, but that sin of that person being gay or that sin of that person doing that is bigger, so you condemn them. When God says that there's no condemnation. So, to me, I feel like starting this revolution, and what I'm talking about is with everyone. You know what I'm saying? Everyone is sick and tired of the system that we're in right now. Everyone is sick and tired of them lying, because right now you see it. They all lie. Democrats and Republicans, they're one and the same. Period, point blank. They're not about the people. They're about politics. They're playing. That's all they do is play politics. Well, you know how that term was coined. That's exactly what they do. They play politics. They play with people's lives. When people out here dying, people out here don't got clean water. It's not a joke to people out here, and they joking with people, all of them. Period. And they don't give a fuck about you. And I feel like I said, Beacon's Rebellion. That's when you had the indentured servants and the black slaves back when the institution of slavery, as we know it before it actually started, and they changed the laws and the black codes. They were all living together, and they rose up together to go against, and they won. And then, Beacon died, and they ended up losing. But that's what I'm talking about. They care for each other's well-being enough to fight together. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about knowing and whatever it takes to do that. If we got to argue and yell and go back and forth for days, for months, until you get it, until what matters to me matters to you and what matters to you matters to me. If we're willing to take that time, then we can do whatever we want. But it got to. It has to. Got to get over your whiteness and all that bullshit. And I have to get over whatever I have to get over. I don't know what that is right now because I'm subjective. I'm me. But we're talking about socially. I don't know what I need to get over unless I talk to somebody that's like a Republican or just on that side of the fence and think that, whatever their grievances are. I don't know. I just think that if we really want to move forward, we got to revolt. We got to have a revolution. We have to build up our own people. And that's going to take some work, but it can happen. And I may not be articulating this right, but if we can get to the empathy stage, we walking in agreeing that something needs to change and that the Republican Party is corrupt as fuck and the Democratic Party is corrupt as fuck and they fake. And they don't care about women. Me too. They don't care about women. You ain't heard nothing about Joe Biden's accusations right now by Alyssa Milano, by even the black lady that started that the black lady that started Me Too. You ain't heard from Tarana Burke. Ain't nobody said nothing because I look at it like this. Whether Joe Biden did or didn't do it, wouldn't they want to know? Right? I mean, if he didn't do it and they have information, that should be out because it's messed up if he didn't do it and people are saying that he did it. You got this lady going on, she was an ex-staffer of his, saying that he did it. Mind you, the same, just to give y'all context, as I started talking about it, I wasn't going to talk about it, but the same guy, just to let you know, y'all remember this, Brett Kavanaugh. The same guy, Ryan Grimm, that broke the Brett Kavanaugh story, this guy right here. This same guy that broke the Brett Kavanaugh story that every Democrat jumped on and tried to make sure that he wasn't in the Supreme Court justice. That same guy that y'all loved when he broke that story is the same guy that broke this story. Time's Up said it could not fund a Me Too allegation against Joe Biden, citing its nonprofit status and his presidential run. Saying, you guys should read this from The Intercept. They were trying to say that it's a lie. You can't endorse a presidential candidate as a 501c3, but that doesn't mean you can't highlight allegations. And they were trying to say we're going to lose our nonprofit status if we were to go against him, and that's just not true. You know what I'm saying? And so when shit like it's just so fake that it's so frustrating. I can't even I'm so exhausted by reading all this stuff and going through this stuff. I can't. It bothers me, And I was gonna show you. I don't know if y'all been on Twitter today in a couple days, but they've been digging in Alyssa Milano's ass because Alyssa Milano has been like she the one that. So what's the lady's name? Tarana Burke. She was the first one that brought up or that hashtag Me Too years ago when something was going on in another country, but obviously nothing gets wind until a white woman tweets it and then it gets fired. Black women had big lips and big ass and there was monkeys until a white woman decided she wanted to do it and all of a sudden it's in vogue. That's the country we live in. I digress. So Alyssa Milano was one of the people that or on the front lines of the Me Too movement, believe women, believe women, believe women. And so people have been getting at her about, because she's endorsed Joe Biden and people have been getting at her about, okay, you endorsed Joe Biden, but this, You hear what's going on right now? You see what's been trending about Tara Reid, and she's she hasn't responded, and people have been digging in her ass. But I'm like, if you feel like that's your candidate, if you feel like it's not true, and you have evidence to show that it's not true, show it, because it's messed up if it's not true and people are blaming Joe Biden. You know what I'm saying? Or if it's right now, if it is true and people are not saying anything, both sides isn't right. But if you don't agree with it, show us the side of the story. Doesn't that make sense? Instead of just saying this is what she said. I'm gonna let you guys hear it.
What did you do that you ending?
So it's actually quite a serious reason, I
Okay.
think. So I endorsed Joe Biden.
Okay, good.
And there have been accusations against Joe about a sexual assault.
Right, and people were
And
saying, how
so-
can you do that? Because
so
you're...
I have not publicly said anything about this. If you remember, it kind of took me a long time to publicly say anything about Harvey. Women, and that is an important thing. And what that statement really means is, like, for so long, the go-to women and a long time to publicly
do that because
so
you're...
I have not publicly said anything about this. If you remember, it kind of took me a long time to publicly say anything about Harvey as well,
Okay.
because I believe that even though we should believe women, and that is an important thing, and what that statement really means is, like, for so long the go-to has been not to believe them. So really, we have to sort of societally change that mindset to believing women, but that does not mean at the expense of not, giving men their due process and investigating situations.
I like that.
And giving,
That's all the bullshit you really need to hear. You guys can go and listen to it. But she's contradicting herself, because Aziz, she was like blaming him and everybody else. It wasn't no consideration for what a man thinks. Now all of a sudden, because the man that we're referring to happens to be Joe Biden, now all of a sudden we should consider something else. That's what I'm talking about. This shit being just so fake and it's so irritating that I'm like, F all of them. But here, I want to show you how this starts, how this all start off. Let's see. So I think it was. Oh, you're going to hear this.
Come forward.
You're going to hear that in a minute. Hold on. Because Crystal Ball, like, tweeted at her, and she tried to act like she didn't know who Crystal Ball was. She was like, are you Bernie supporter, right? Oh, here it is right here. I mean, yeah, here you go. So this is, you guys can see. Let me make sure of that. All right, you guys see. This is Crystal Ball, and she says, incredible Alyssa Milano says she assumes that mainstream media would have covered Tara Reid if her claims were credible, and that we have to find a balance in Me Too and believe women. Don't remember those caveats before. So you guys, if you look at the whole thing, you guys listen to the whole thing. She talks. She has all these considerations now because the accusations is going against someone that she endorses. And like I said, you can endorse whoever you want to, but if it's a lie, shouldn't we know it's a lie? Like, shouldn't you give us a story that it's a lie? You know, at the minimum, her story deserved to be heard. All of a sudden, you going with mainstream media. But see, if you guys don't have history on Alyssa Milano, you would think that sounds logical. No, she didn't like mainstream media. The same, like I said, the same person that wrote this story right here about Biden, Ryan Grimm, is the same person that wrote the story about Brett Kavanaugh that she jumped on. It just shows you, it's all about themselves. They don't care about nobody else, period. And when you start to see it and they put it in your face like they really don't care, like, what you gonna do about it? That's how they feel. But anyway, we're gonna watch this. Somebody made this. I thought this was enlightening. This is all the Me Too people that was talking about Believe Women back when it was Brett Kavanaugh and Harvey Weinstein. Now no one's saying anything. I mean, even Joe Biden. This is what they were saying, and now you don't hear a word from anyone.
Deserves to be treated with dignity. It takes enormous courage for a woman to come forward on the bright lights of millions of people watching and relive something that happened to her, assert that something happened to her. And she should be treated with respect.
He went down my skirt but then up inside it, and he penetrated me with his fingers.
I don't care, it's been 20 years, 50 years, I would come forward because I don't think anyone that has ever done that, whether it was once in their life or 50 times, deserves to sit at the highest position of power.
Here is a woman who has come forward to do what she thought was right.
I found her very credible. You have to ask yourself, why would anybody put themselves through this?
Well, the question is, do we value women? And that's the fundamental question. Do we believe women? Do we give them an ability to tell their story, to be heard, to have some measure of accountability?
The statistics are clear. You know, there's been a lot of talk about, well, why is she now coming forward? Why didn't she report? Over 60% of sexual assault victims never report the crime against them.
You don't remember everything. You remember the most poignant moments. You remember the things that are seared into your memory and have affected you your whole life. I believe her.
Roll over millions of women who have had it with men who decide that they are entitled and they don't have to listen to complaints about sexual assault.
Now, what kind of message does that send to women and men all over this country? Women who are struggling to determine whether, when they come forward, they will be laughed at, they will be rejected.
Let's just hear that one more time.
She deserves to be treated with dignity.
Mind you, it's the same people that are not saying anything, the same DNC party that are not saying anything about Joe Biden right now, whether it's true or false. Let the woman say her story and let's investigate it. If it's false, let's put it out there. If it's true, let's put it out there. These same people, as a part of the Democratic Party, aren't saying nothing.
She deserves to be treated with dignity. It takes enormous courage for a woman to come forward on the bright lights of millions of people watching and relive something that happened to her, assert that something happened to her. And she should be treated with respect.
He went down my skirt but then up inside it, and he penetrated me with his fingers.
I don't care, it's been 20 years, 50 years, I would come forward because I don't think anyone that has ever done that, whether it was once in their life or 50 times, deserves to sit at the highest position of power.
Here is a woman who has come forward to do what she thought was right.
I found her very credible. You have to ask yourself, why would anybody put themselves through this?
Well, the question is, do we value women? And that's the fundamental question. Do we believe women? Do we give them an ability to tell their story, to be heard, to have some measure of accountability?
The statistics are clear. You know, there's been a lot of talk about, well, why is she now coming forward? Why didn't she report? Over 60% of sexual assault victims never report the crime against them.
You don't remember everything. You remember the most poignant moments. You remember the things that are seared into your memory and have affected you your whole life. I believe her.
Roll over millions of women who have had it with men who decide that they are entitled and they don't have to listen to complaints about sexual assault.
Now, what kind of message does that send to women and men all over this country? Women who are struggling to determine whether, when they come forward, they will be laughed at, they will be rejected.
Period.
She deserves to be treated with dignity. It takes enormous courage for.
You see that hypocrisy? It is what it is. But that's the Democratic Party. And I know, like I said, we're as frustrated with the Democratic Party as Republicans are frustrated with the Republican Party. You know what I'm saying? And this is who they are. They don't care about women. They only care about their positions. If it benefits them in the moment, then they riding with it. If it doesn't, then they ain't got nothing to say about it. It's not. You ain't heard a peep. And they know the majority of people listen to mainstream media. CNN, none of them, said anything. And you think that when Joe Biden goes against Trump, he's not going to bring this out? Trump don't care about how many sexual accusations that was toward him. Trump lies all the time. He don't care about that. Remember in a debate when the whole grabbing a pussy thing came out? The night of the debate, he doubled down and he brought every accuser of Bill Clinton out there. He don't care about that. I don't think that he's not going to bring it up in a debate during the general election. But they don't care about that because they're so absent. They're so worried about themselves that they think that they can just not say nothing now and it's going to be all good, and it's not. And it's that part and a whole lot of other things that has me so frustrated, has me just drained right now, for real. But I'm going to go ahead and get off here, and I'll be on tomorrow as well. I know today I was kind of all over the place, but I just wanted to vent. It's been stressful. People have been dying. Oh, I want to show y'all this video of this lady. I want y'all to see how people that are affected by this widow describes that are affected by the coronavirus. I want y'all to see what's going on, and we got a president that's lying and people are dying. And hold on. Let's see if we can find it. Brooke Baldwin. Let's say. I'm just looking for this video right quick. What is it called? Look at the name of it. Widow describes. And this is a lady's story. About her husband who died from coronavirus. I want y'all to see this so y'all can see like what's been going on and the people that's been affected by it. It's a little long, but I want y'all to check it out.
Out front tonight, the many lives lost too soon to coronavirus. Joe Lewinger was a husband and father of three who lived on Long Island, just outside of New York City. Worked for 20 years at a Catholic high school where he was the assistant principal and coached the basketball team. He was incredibly beloved by his students, one saying he was like a second father. Lewinger passed away on Saturday at the age of 42. And his wife, Maura, joins us now. And Maura, look, you and I were just speaking briefly before this began, and not only am I so sorry, but of course it is impossible to truly imagine the depth of your loss, the suddenness of it, the unexpectedness of it. But I know that you are on tonight to speak to people at this moment, and that you have something important you want to tell them. Tell us.
I do. My husband gave 110% to everything he did. When I met him in college, he was known as Mr. St. Joe's because he embodied every spirit of that college. And then getting a job at the Mary Lewis Academy right out of college, he just became that guy who everybody loved, everybody was inspired by. Every lesson he had his students engaged and wanting to learn more. I received a letter from his chairperson, and she said she never learned more about economics than in his Santa's workshop elves lesson. And that touched me, because I never got to see him as a teacher in front of a classroom, but I can imagine, because I see him with our own children, and I see him with the members of our community and with our friends, and he always has a listening ear, no matter what you're talking about. Joe was always listening. Always felt like you were the most important person in the room.
And Mar, you both are just so young. I mean, he was only 42, no pre-existing conditions that you know of. I mean, when he became sick, I'm sure that this could have happened, never crossed your mind, that this could have ended this way.
Not at all. He started out mild symptoms, low-grade fever. And then a couple days later, he stayed up quarantined. We quarantined right away, not thinking. He actually was denied the test originally because he wasn't symptomatic enough. And then when he did get the test, those results took longer. And we were told if he gets worse, to go to the emergency room. And that's what happened on St. Patrick's Day, the 17th. His fever continued to spike, and he started to have labored breathing. And he said, I have to go. Something's not right. So they admitted him. And he had already been on oral antibiotics for what they knew was a pneumonia. And it had gotten worse. And he was immediately put on oxygen and admitted to the floor. And then they began the protocol that they're using, anti-malaria drugs and azithromycin. And he had that for 5 days. And then he had a trial drug. The name escapes me right now. And that drug is used in rheumatoid arthritis treatment. And it was part of a trial. So there is a chance that he didn't get it. I don't know the answer to that yet. But he did become afebrile 24 hours after receiving that infusion, whether it be the drug or a placebo. I'm not sure. So everybody kind of got their hopes up with being without a fever, 24 hours, 48 hours. But I saw his breathing. We spent pretty much 24/7 on FaceTime, just trying to meditate, trying to calm him, trying to not let him feel alone. The country's getting used to remote learning. And we had to get used to virtual caregiving and virtual marriage and just being there for each other. And when I had said to him, do you want me to say something for the prayers? Do you want me to put it out there? Not make it public, but, with our own friends and family who didn't know yet. And he was debating it. And then when I finally did post and I made it public, I said to him, before I did it, I said, babe, it's time. I said, it's time to make this known. Besides the prayers, I said, people are not listening. People are not taking this serious enough. There are still kids riding their bikes. There are still that don't live together. You want to go for a walk with your family. You want to ride your bike. You want to take a ride in the car with your family. I get it. We're stir crazy too. But only be with the people that live in your house. Only go to the store if you must. And people, okay.
I just wanted to ask you, Mario, you talk about FaceTime. Were you able to be with him when he died, or
I was.
No?
I was.
You were.
I was. Yes.
Thank God.
I was. Yes. The doctors kept me very much in the loop. She called and told me that I had called in the morning. He was put on the ventilator and sedated, and then he was transferred to the ICU. And then I called and spoke with that nurse, and he was very reassuring. And I asked him to play music, and I told him what he liked to listen to. And then he said he would. He's like, he's very heavily sedated, but I definitely will. And the next morning I waited a little bit. I know everybody's busy taking care of everybody. So around 11 I called, and then I finally talked to a nurse, and she said that the team would be calling later in the afternoon. They're going to call all the ICU families. But he was fine. He was stable, and he was sedated. Still no change. So I said, okay. and I went about taking care of my children. And then around 2 o'clock, the doctor called. And I expected to hear the same thing. And I had a list of questions because everybody ask about this, ask about that. And so I did. And she said that she's a little bit concerned because he's on 3 blood pressure medications. And his breathing is just not good, that he's not expelling the carbon from his lungs. And then I said, well, I need to speak with him. And she said, okay, I don't think there's a phone. I said, just go get his. I'll give you the code. Just go get his. And she FaceTimed. And I saw him, and I begged him not to leave us. And I told him that we all needed him. And then she said, I don't want to cut your time short, but we have to take care of him. And I said, okay, please call me back. And she did. And she called me back, and she told me her next idea that was just kind of out of the back pocket. You know, they didn't know if it was going to work, but just like a last ditch. And I said, okay. And then I was just busying myself. I was actually doing dishes, just busying myself, listening to our wedding song on loop, staring out into the backyard. And it dawned on me that, oh my gosh, he would need last rites. We're Catholic. He would need last rites. If this is it, he's going to need last rites. And I called back, and she said, absolutely. We'll have that waiting. And I said, okay, and then call me back. So she again called me back, and her words to me were, we have thrown the kitchen sink at him, and I'm afraid he doesn't have any more time. And so I said, then I need to be on FaceTime again. I need to be with him. I said, hurry in the room and get him on FaceTime. And so she did. She did. And I thanked him. I thanked him for being the most amazing husband, and for making me feel cherished and loved every single day. Every single day, my husband wrote me beautiful love letters in my lunchbox. Not just have a great day, but just beautiful letters about what I meant to him and our plans for the weekend, maybe if it was Friday, or just about, maybe the next morning. We always had a beautiful morning. He always took care of me. He always got me my coffee and just wanted to help me get out of the house and help me in every way. And so I thanked him. And then I prayed. And then the doctor took the phone. And he said, I'm sorry, but there's no more pulse. And then I played our wedding song for him. And then that was it. So I was with him, and he passed. Mm. But I don't want anybody else to experience this. This morning I woke up to a notification on my phone that 43 in Nassau County, 43 people alone overnight died because people are just not being careful. People are just being so invincible feeling. They think it can't happen to them, and maybe it won't happen to them, but maybe they're carrying it and they don't know it. And from my cousin today, I heard that their 11-year-old daughter had to yell at her 11-year-old friends for inviting her to the park. Why are you inviting me? You're supposed to be home. Why are you together? Parents, you have to be mean. You have to not care if your kids hate you right now. They're going to hate you no matter what, because this whole thing, everything about it is awful. But you cannot be with people that are not in your house. As sad and lonely and everything that is, you must stay with only the people in your house.
That last video, follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, where the progressives have a voice. And remember, share this, like it, subscribe to the channel so we can grow. The Section Independent, that part.